Hello everyone and welcome to my latest making of. Today I'm going to go through the making of the Cthulhu temple that I just made, and it's going to be like an honest sort of sharing of my experience with this because it's a bit of a failure. I mean, the painting I think is successful in that I'm happy with it, but the process, something of a failure, and I wanted to just share that process and just be honest. A lot of artists, I think, maybe we only see their successful stuff and we assume that they just knock it out straight away, and so I thought I'd show you how I kind of stumbled my way through this. And it all began with taking on some work where I was working an awful lot in Blender and 3D and for like months, and so I took time off doing 2D really. I just didn't really have time to do it, or maybe the energy. And so after the work sort of dried up or hit a lull, I thought I'm sick of 3D. I'm sick of the constant crashes. I spend a decent amount of my time when I'm using Blender filling in crash reports, and I just want to do something that's just in Photoshop. And now this isn't spoiler alert. Because, and that's what I mean by the sort of failure aspect, I failed to do painting in 2D. And so what I'll do is I'll go through the sketch process and how I just couldn't get anywhere. Then I'll go through the 3D process, how I used Oculus Medium, and how Oculus Medium really wins in this particular type of scene, and a little bit of 3D Coat, and then some Blender stuff. Okay, so let's dive in. First, sketches. So started off doing some landscape sketches, and as you can see, these are awful. Literally, I just want to reiterate, the time that I spent away from 2D was so much, and my 2D skills were already weak, that I just literally forgot everything that I knew, and it was like shocking. And I was like, what am I going to do? This is like, I'm done now. And it goes to show, and this is what I wanted to emphasize, is you can't just do the process of the easiest process, which is, and I was doing the easiest process. So you get Blender, you download all your models, you stick some lights in, and you render it, a little bit of a touch in Photoshop, and you're done. If you do that long enough, you will lose your ability to be creative and sketch from imagination and all that stuff. It's very dangerous, and I really did it. I'm here to tell the tales. So yeah, these are the sketches that I was doing, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So it was literally like I wanted to do something. Just like, can I do a sketch even? My idea being, and I'll show you my inspiration board, to create a Cthulhu temple, obviously, and a wide variety of inspirations. These actually developed as I was going. This wasn't everything that I had before I started, but it kind of began with these here pictures. Later progressed to those and some more refinements in gathering reference for water and fishermen. So I kind of liked this kind of mysterious temple. I liked that, and that kind of thing. And these were all kind of on the money. Something that was like a big monolithic thing. Looked like it was partially organic, partially man-made. I like these steps going through this rock face. I like the lighting of this, which was one of my favourite paintings of this kind of type. It's got great lighting and nice colour pops and that kind of thing. I love this kind of thing, all dark and spooky. You can probably see some of the well-known artists in all this. And so I began sketching, and like I say, it did not go well. I was just not even sure, like, should I start with shapes? Should I start with lines? Just literally like perplexed at how I just couldn't put anything down. This is just me just not even knowing where I'm going. I'm just throwing stuff down and seeing what happens. And then I thought, oh, maybe I need to do a portrait version short sketch. So I just did something like this. Doing it like, again, that's not really what I wanted. I was just trying to see what I could do, and this is closer to what I wanted. I started out with lines on this one, and I think it's, as a drawing, it's okay, but then I knew that I wouldn't know what to kind of do with that to paint it in a super like realistic way like these guys. And then there is this thing, which was, again, this wasn't even anything to do with, because it was supposed to be a Cthulhu temple, but this isn't even a Cthulhu temple. It's just something like a nighttime scene in a weird archaic gate, with like it would have been like a daytime sky, and I don't know. So it just wasn't working. So I thought, I'm going to have to. I kind of know what I want ish from the overall sort of design, but I knew that Oculus Medium would come to the rescue, because when there's certain things that I really don't like Oculus Medium for, and it's anything that's precise and architectural, but when it comes to rocks and organic things, it's absolutely the best program out there. And so what I'll do now is take you into Oculus Medium and show you what I did there, and how easy it is to like work with this sort of thing. Okay, let's go into that. Right, here we are inside Medium. There is the sculpt, and there is my reference. And I mean, what's to say? It's really just straightforward. I'm sure if those of you who've used Medium can just see how medium-y it is. You just look at these. Every time I use Medium, I forget all of the shortcuts, even if I'm only away from it for a few days. Right, where's the reference? Move that out of the way. Okay, so layer 1, these rocks here. Layer 2 is this little doorway. Oops. Here's that. So I did the doorway separately. And then layer 3 is Cthulhu's head. And because you can see how easy it is to do organic stuff here. So if I go to, I think I used rocks and stuff for the brush. And just like that. Super easy and intuitive. You can do it like that kind of thing. And even curl things around like that. And then obviously these are just rock brushes. Same kind of thing. Make them bigger. Like that. I mean, what else is there to say? It's just so easy and so intuitive. And doing this took like half an hour or something. And yeah, just exported it. It wasn't even big in terms of mesh density. So yeah, we'll jump from here into 3D Coat, where I just went over. As you can see, the mesh is just a bit blobby. It's like, I always liken it to like sculpting with shaving foam, and so it needs a little bit of a treatment afterwards. Okay, let's dive into 3D Coat. Sorry, it wasn't exciting, but it is pretty straightforward. Right, 3D Coat it is, and it when it exported in those 3 layers, it came in 3 layers as well, which is quite handy, really. I think it was an OBJ that I exported. Let's have a look. Medium. OBJ, yeah. And it was 64 megs. And I increased the resolution of the mesh. So let's say the rocks here were probably, I don't know, like 500,000 or something. Maybe not even that. And so I bumped them up to like 4.5 million, and then just use whatever rock alphas I had. I don't know whether I did something like what is it? Extrude, and then this guy, something like that. try my rock brushes. Maybe more depth. Something like, yeah. So when you're doing that, you add in a nice bit of detail onto the surface. Like so. See, it's even extruding outwards, which sometimes you don't want, but in this case we did. It brought out all of this nice rocky stuff, and that's a good example there. It really like juts the rock out. And then for the both the doorway and Cthulhu's head, there's actually a doubling here of the original, which is smooth, and then this one where I made it have like a temple brick look. And for that I used let's see, it's in the stencils, one of Quentin's brick. This is a very good brick sort of displace, you might say. And I would always use cube mapping, which is tricky. In this version of for 3D Coat it's a bit bugged, but basically you extrude a rectangle, and I think the scale is all crazy. Like it's not accurate, it's not one for one. What you see is not what gets projected on because there's the bug, but essentially whatever you see here, when you put it on cube mapping, unfortunately it then disappears so you don't get a preview, but it wraps around the object, whereas from camera we'll just push this through the object and it will skim along the sides, if that makes sense. So I just use the cube, and as you can see it wraps around. It's very useful when it works, because you know, if you're doing like a tower that's cylindrical, or even a square tower that's got bricks on it, you don't want to have to drag the front, the side, the other side, the back. This will do it all at once. It just takes a little bit of messing around to get it to work. And so I did the brick on the doorway thingy, yeah, just to give it a temple look, and then a basic shader put on it, which when I use a shader here I will usually intend to export it, so I want it to look okay in the viewport, which can sometimes mean changing the scale. I think I made up my own from, I've got this bone shader, and when I applied it, it was too like chunky, too large, sort of pixely, you know. So I made my own that was a bit finer. Okay, and then went through the export process. If you want to know how I did that, then just check out my other videos. I've got a video on how to export from 3D Coat. It's pretty straightforward. And then we will dive into Blender. Right, Blender time. And how good does this scene look with the Blender lighting and the fog and all the things? Love it. And in this case, I actually rendered this using Eevee, which is not something I always do, but it just seemed to work better. So in this scene, we have the imported from 3D Coat model. Let's maybe turn off the atmosphere for a sec, so we can see what we're doing. Let's see. Bit of bump, I think. Let's just have a look at the shader. Okay. So we've got the diffuse map that it generates. We've got what I did was I sometimes take it gives you a normal map if you want, but I just don't find that I can't get on with normal maps. I don't know why, but I tend to take the reflection map and maybe I'll put some contrast on it in Photoshop and use that as a bump, just so that there's a little bit of something. And so that's gone into the normal, the roughness and the specular. Let's see what it looks like without it. As you can see, it looks way sort of less detailed. So yeah, that's kind of useful. Did I do the same with the doorway? A little bit of bump. In fact, sometimes I'll just use a generic bump just to give it some tooth. But I'm not quite sure. Can't quite see the difference here. It would help if I had that turned on. And that. So yeah. And then I also used some Quixel rocks just here. I think just like one rock here that I just duplicated and turned around and scaled, so that got a lot of mileage out of that one rock. So I think this whole scene is just, in terms of these little bits here, it's just that one big rock that I've just cloned, and then a cliff face which you can hardly see in the final image, but it's just there. Because I wanted this idea of we're in a cave maybe, but I don't know, I kind of want to leave that open. Some big rocky cliff face, possibly surrounded on all sides, but possibly not, I don't know. But it's one of those things where you leave it as a bit of a mystery as to what does the rest of it look like, kind of thing, because it's all like shrouded in darkness. And then I wasn't quite sure at this stage, before like the boat and the guy was in, I was like, what do I want to put in there? And I kind of knew that I wanted somebody exploring it, and I do like tying this into a early 20th century like little fishing village kind of vibe. And so I found a boat. Do you remember I was saying before, like, be careful about just going on Sketchfab, downloading objects, and I sort of went back to my comfort zone and don't feel too great about it, but I don't know, the finished result is okay. So putting the boat, that took some doing actually. I didn't really want to sit in there. In my mind's eye I was like, yeah, I'll just stick it about there and it'll look fine, but it took a bit of moving around. And in fact I think I put it there, rendered it, and then actually ended up sliding that boat over in Photoshop. So that's that. Let's look at the camera shot. Okay, we're looking at that kind of composition. So yeah, in this render, the boat is here, but I ended up putting it over that way. I think it has a better read in terms of we go here, we go here, we go here. Whereas here it kind of interrupts the flow a bit. What else? The guy. Okay, I think everything's covered now except the guy. This was very tricky, and I did a lot of procrastinating. I did a lot of studying of fishermen and stuff, but I could not find anything remotely, and this is a problem that I come up with a lot. I couldn't find anything remotely like the pose that I wanted, and I knew I wanted this kind of pose. Somebody kind of staggering towards this entrance, possibly sneaking in a sneaking pose, they're timid, and I just gingerly moving towards it, not sure of what to expect. And so I looked, like I always do, I was straight to Sketchfab, look all over there, couldn't find any fishermen or anything like that. So what I found instead was a guy who was dressed in medieval clothing, and so it's hard to believe, but this is actually a guy wearing medieval clothing that I just recolored. For a long time, and then I thought, should I just sketch it from scratch? And I was looking at my research here. There's no way that there's going to be a photo that's appropriately posed or anything remotely like what I wanted. Back in the day, I would have just I'd have had to have abandoned that idea and just gone, okay, well, instead I'm going to take this guy and stick him in there because I don't have any other option. But I persevered, and what I did was I went on Sketchfab, searched for male, found a medieval guy. I just wanted somebody wearing something loose fitting or a coat or something, and I did the old Mixamo trick. So this is what the character looks like, and he's wearing I don't know what you call them, a medieval jerkin or something. But he had the boots, and I knew that, you know, I had to have some boots in there, and somebody who was a little bit like loose-fitting clothing. And I found a pose that actually, while this looks like, you know, the guy's sneaking, the actual animation is of somebody being injured. So he's limping. But if you get it in the right moment, it looks like he's just, you know, walking, but just hunched over. So I took that, exported him. I basically took his texture in Photoshop and put like a yellow square over the top to make it look yellow. Found a hat. Did some basic manipulation of the hat in Blender because it was like wasn't the exact shape. So yeah, it's even sticking out of his forehead. His forehead sticking out of that. And so there, if you go close up, you can see that he's wearing like a medieval belt, but who cares? And he's got his booties. And I didn't sew the guy. He had texture for his skin, texture for his jerkin, legs, but also his moustache and his beard. And I just left them blank. And as it happens, that makes them white, just like an old fisherman. Hey, look at that. What fisherman doesn't have a white beard? Look at them. Okay, so so that solved that issue, and I did all of that last. I was painting away and painting away, and there was nothing here. Then I put the boat in, and I just procrastinated, like I say. Then I put the dude in, and this isn't the full res Photoshop file, but if I just zoom in, I just painted him to look like he's got baggy trousers and a little spear, and did some paint over the top. And then okay, so once I exported all of that, do I have the... I'll show you what the raw 3D looks like. Render out, main. So that's what it looked like. Pretty ugly, and there's also lots of weird artifacts. I don't even know what this is. There's black stuff here. I've just painted out. So yeah, it looks pretty ugly, but I knew. I mean, the early versions of this. Do I have like early test renders? It was just not looking good. Yeah, this was an early test render. I'm glad that I kept this because it shows that like I wasn't. You know, this was the path that I was going on originally. I just wasn't feeling it. And usually, if I'm working in portrait, and I was trying my best to go for a portrait one, I switch to landscape and it fixes everything. So then I went straight to there, and that's the Eevee render, and that's a Cycles render. And I just preferred the Eevee. It's much easier to read, so that always wins. And then yeah, it was just, I don't want to go over this too much, get you bored or whatever, but yeah, I just put like a top down, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but like a separate XYZ so that the green is like hitting the top faces basically, and then you use this to fine tune it, just to give it like a mossy look. I sometimes like to do that. So yeah, okay, so in Photoshop, so yeah, here we are with the original full res PSD, and it was just a matter of going over everything and painting it. And I don't know, not the best paint job, but I think from a distance it works okay. I just ran a filter on everything just to get rid of the 3D, and then hand painted everything out. I like to work in separated layers where possible, so I cut out the foreground rock and separated, I think, the Cthulhu from the background, so it was just like that. And yeah, the tricky part was the water. I had to look at a lot of reference. I'm still not confident with doing water. And I think that's just covers just about everything really. But yeah, so like I say, in conclusion, I ended up with a completely different result. It's not something that I recommend as the thing. It's tricky because like as an artist, I feel like it's important that when you have a mission that you set out to fulfill, that you do what you set out to. My mission was to make a portrait, hand-painted Cthulhu temple, and I failed. And yet I produced this, which I think is all right, and is better than what I would have done if I'd have hand-painted it. So it's a bit of a dilemma. So I'd welcome your thoughts on that predicament, really. And if you have the same issues where you think, oh, I'm going to paint one thing and then it comes out as something else, that manifests most when you get client work and they want you to paint a specific thing, and you think, oh no, it's not working and I want to do something else, and then you try it, you say, oh, this other thing, how's about this other thing, and the client goes, no. You start to get away from the brief. And so here I have, if I was the client, I would have in a way failed, but at the same time, if I don't know, if I'd have been shown this, I'd have been like, well, maybe let's go with this then. I don't know, it's hard to say really, but I hope that you learned some stuff from this and got an insight into the process, and especially into the issue of struggling and not quite getting what it is that you wanted out of a painting. So yes, please give a like and a comment if you got something out of this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Farewell.